Hi, my name is Jason with AlarmSystemStore.com, and in today's video I'm going to be going through the programming process for user codes on the DSC Power Series. And this is going to include the installer code and the master code as well as regular user codes. And I'll be showing it on two styles of keypads, the full message display keypads, the 5500 style, and the fixed message display, the 5501 style. So if you'll follow me over to the table, we'll get started. Alright, so this is the PK 5500 style keypad. It's a full message keypad. So we'll start on this one. I'm also going to show you all the user code programming on the PK 5501 style keypad, which is the fixed message keypad, just so you can see the differences. If you only have one or the other, you'll be all set. And we'll also go over some of the advantages to having at least one of this full message style keypad. Makes things a lot easier on you. So the Power Series has two codes that are default set. So those are the installer code, which the default installer code is 5555, and the master code. The default master code is 1234. You definitely want to change your master code no matter what. It's a huge security risk. If you leave it on 1234, have your system armed, somebody breaks in through an entry delay or anywhere, gets to a keypad quick enough, they can just try 1234 and the system might disarm. So you definitely want to get that changed. We also recommend changing your installer code. Now, it's very important with the installer code, when you change that, you need to make sure you know what you change it to. Maybe have it written down somewhere safe, or be something that you can easily remember. If you don't know your installer code at any point, maybe you change it to something, didn't really pay attention while you're typing in, and accidentally put it something you didn't want it as, whatever the case is. And then you need to get back into programming. Maybe you have a wireless device that needs to be replaced later on, down the road. Whatever it is, you won't be able to do it. You'll have to completely default the alarm system and start over. Alright, so let's get started with the installer code and the master code. So the first thing we'll do is *8. This is to go into programming, so the 5500 will show enter your installer code. Again, the default, 5555. So now it's going to say intersection. We want to go to 006. So as you can see, it says enter data, and then it has 5555. 006 is for the installer code, and it shows what's in there currently. Let's change it to 1111. Okay. And so it beeped 3 times, went back to intersection. Now if you wanted, you could check it pretty easily with this keypad. You just type in 006 again, and it'll show what you have entered there. So maybe you thought maybe you pushed the wrong button, or whatever the case is. You can check it, make sure it's what you want it to be. And then to go back, you'll just push pound. Okay, so now to change the master code, it's basically the same thing, except you're going to use 007. And then it's show enter data 1234, so that's the default. Let's change the master code to 4321. And again, you can check it. And there it is. You just push pound to go back, and then pound again will exit out of programming. So now we're back at the main screen, and we can test those numbers. So we change the master code to 4321. System's arming right now. Type it in again to disarm. Now we can check the installer code as well. *8. 1111 goes into programming just fine. So now let's switch over to the 5501 and we'll go over the differences. So here we are at the 5501, which is a fixed message keypad. And you can already see there's some differences. On the screen you're just seeing the time, you're not seeing the date. That's completely normal. And so we'll go through the same exact process pretty much as we did on the 5500. So we do *8 to go into programming. And now you can see that the screen just goes completely blank. This is normal. So then we'll enter 1111, which is our installer code. We get program flashing and the red lock turned on. So that tells us we're in programming. We got the triple beep, which is good. So now to change the installer code, just like before, we enter 006. You're not going to get the intersection that you got on the other keypad. And when you enter 006, not much changes on the keypad. You don't see what's entered in there. And then we can change it to whatever we want from here. So let's just change it back to the default, just for this example. So 5555. We get a triple beep. And again, the screen looks like it stays the same pretty much. So there's no way to check your work with this style of keypad. That's one of the big advantages of having the 5500. So if you had any doubt about making a mistake, especially for the installer code, make sure you go back into 006 and re-enter it. I'm pretty confident I typed in 45, so I'm not going to do that. And then to change the master code, same thing, 007. Again, not really anything shows up. And then we can type in the new master code. Let's just go back to the default again. One, two, three, four, get the triple beep. Everything looks the same. So let's push pound. That exits out of programming. Here in a second, the time will pop back up. We get the green check showing the system's ready to arm. And so let's try arming the system with our new master code, 1234. System's arming, the red lock shows up, we get the beeping. Let's disarm. And then let's test our installer code. *8. 5555, and we're in programming. So all our changes took just fine. Again, the major difference is you kind of have to know what you're doing with the 5501. There's no on-screen prompts really to give you any sort of feedback as to where you're at. There's no way of checking your work, but it's the same exact process. So let's switch back to the 5500 and we'll go through adding regular user codes. Alright, so once again we're back at the 5500. You can see again, shows the date, shows the time. We're on our main screen here, the system's ready to go. So to change our user codes, and the user code is similar to the master code, but it has less access to making changes. You can't edit user codes, for instance, things like that. So it's very common to give these out to, maybe some family members, maybe have somebody house sitting for you, just want to give them a code where they can arm and disarm the system, but not much else. That's what a user code is good for. Businesses will often use these, maybe give them out to employees. Also allows you to kind of track who's arming and disarming the system with the event log, which is also, again, very useful, especially for businesses. So let's get started. We'll do *5 to edit the user codes. And then it'll say enter master access code. So we're back to the default for now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Get the triple beep. And so now you can see on screen star to edit. And then it's got user code 01, which is the first user code. And then you can see the arrows in the top right showing that you can scroll. So I can scroll through, pick the user code I want to edit. And then we also see this dash here. The dash means that there's no user code programmed yet. So let's go ahead and push star to edit user code 01. So this user code I want to make 9876. So now you can see we entered the 4-digit code. We get a P here. You can go back in with star, make any changes if you want, or you can just push pound to go back. And then you can scroll to the next user code, do the same exact thing, or when you're finished, you just push pound. Then you're back to system is ready to arm, and let's test out our new user code. 9876. Exit delay in progress, so we're good to go with that one. Type it in again, disarmed. So now let's go through the same process on the 5501 and we can show the differences there. Alright, so here's the 5501. Again, it's going to be basically the same process. Star 5, except nothing shows on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the master code. And then it looks kind of like we're in programming. You see programming flashing, the lock signs on. But then we get some numbers appearing on the screen. So we got a 1 and a 40. So 1 is actually the first user code, and 40 is actually the master code. So this is just telling us which user codes are programmed on the system. So now obviously we can't scroll through the users. So we just have to type in the 2-digit user code we want to program. So we know 2 is open because it's not flashing on the screen. And we just timed out here, so let's go back in. So we're going to just type in 0, 2. So then 2 appears on the screen. That's showing that we're editing user code 2. And let's make this one 6789. We'll get the triple beep. And then when it flashes through the user codes, we get a 1, a 2, and a 40. So now we can push pound. And we're back to the home screen. And let's test our new user code, 6789. And it's arming, so it worked. So again, it's the same basic process as with the 5500. There's just no prompting. So if you know what you're doing, it's not really an issue. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be a problem, potentially. So let's switch back to the 5500, and then we'll go through deleting user codes. Alright, so to delete a user code, it's pretty simple. It's same basic process as adding a user code. You start with star 5, then enter the master code. And then what you'll do is you'll actually scroll to the user code that you want to delete. So let's delete user code 1. You'll push star. And then instead of entering any numbers, we're just going to hit star again. And now you can see that the P disappears, goes back to the dash. So that user code is no longer programmed. User code 2 is still intact. And we can check it. Just go back into there. And we're back to the 4 A's, which means that there's no data there. So let's push pound to go out. User code number 1 was 9876 before we deleted it. Invalid access code, so it's deleted. Now let's hop back over to the 5501 and show how to do it there. Alright, so back at the 5501, deleting a user code. Start out with star 5, enter the master code, and then just going to scroll through again the user code. So we got a 2 and a 40. So let's delete user code 2 by entering 02. And then just like deleting it on the 5500, you just push star. Get a triple beep, and now you can see it's just flashing 40. So the only user code programmed is our master code. So we push pound, and let's test that out. User code 2 is 6789. Get a long beep, the system's not arming. And when we use our master code, it still works. So that's all there is to programming the user codes. And again, it's very important if you change your installer code, make sure you keep that. So that's it for programming user codes on the DSC Power Series. I hope you all found that video helpful. If you'd like to visit us on the website, we got a link right up here. And if you'd like to give us a call, we got our phone number right here below. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.